First, though, I want to introduce you to a great lady. Jen McCloy is her name, and she is the CEO of an organisation called Sidelines Doctor. Now, they have come up with a program that means you would be able to follow along with an app to work out if a kid at kids' sport was affected by concussions. Now, think about this. Think about how unscientific it can be when a kid gets a knock and that little brain is moving around and, you know, magic spray and get back out there, son or daughter. Well, no, there's a different way it can be done. And she's come up with this great idea. She's also started to report in the media what some of her findings have been about how this system works. And apparently, little girls, teenage girls and women take a couple of days longer to recover from traumas that happen during football codes. Now, that's where an awful lot of the media was focused in the past couple of days. So, is it true, or did they beat that angle up?
Concussion in sport in Australia is absolutely a growing issue. And, you know, there's a lot of wonderful research going into it, but we can no longer rely on assumptions and correlations when we're developing our injury prevention solutions. So, you know, absolutely we need to change the way that athlete care is managed in Australia, be that, you know, little Johnny at school or an elite rugby or AFL player. So I think concussion is a really important issue, and that's why we developed Sidelines Doctor, to assess and record and communicate an athlete injury or concussion all on the sidelines of a game in a mobile environment.
The claim that, again, was made in other parts of the media was that that girls and women, and I don't know whether the distinction changes whether we're talking about younger females or fully grown adult females, they take longer to recover from a concussion. Is that true?
Yeah, so as I said, it's very early days, and the data is quite, it's growing, but it's early days. But absolutely, what we're seeing is a trend emerging where females do take 1 to 2 days longer to recover from a concussion in gender-similar sports when compared to their male counterparts, which is really interesting. I think that there's, you know, it's important to consider a sort of social bias in that. I think, you know, Paul, I'm sure, you know, you won't like stereotyping, but I think that females are, you know, a little bit more honest and probably a little bit more comprehensive when they're reporting their symptoms. You know, there's that male sort of, particularly Aussie male thing to sort of say, oh, look, I'm fine, let's just get on with it. So there's definitely that to consider. But with the rise in female elite sport, I think it's really important that we treat the individual. So when you're treating a concussion, it's really important to treat that individual, look at how they, you know, how impact will, you know, show itself in their body, and you know, consider different sort of anatomical differences between females and males as well.
So what you've invested in, and what people can find out more by going to your website, is a system that is able to help with some diagnosis and then again help with how seriously things need to be dealt with. And it is something that, yes, has applications for elite sport, but for a lot of people watching us right now who may have their kids or grandkids who are part of voluntary sport, community sport or school sport, your product can be used there. Give me an idea about, let's imagine, footy club, Queensland, 10-year-old kid. How can it be used there?
Absolutely. I think, you know, what is emerging for us, and we are new in the market, but what is emerging for us across all of the clients that we work with is a real need for something like this, for a tool that we offer like this in the community environment, in the amateur environment. I think concussion is managed in lots of different ways in the elite environment, but in the amateur environment, often there isn't a health professional present, or there might be casual staff present who don't know the medical histories of all of the players, and they don't understand necessarily how to treat a concussion and manage that return to play decision on the spot. So if we're talking Queensland Footy Club, as you said, and, you know, there's a, you know, 10-year-old kid there playing, there might be, you know, a coach present, but there may not be a health professional present. And that coach is going to need to manage that return to play decision on the spot. So it's important for them to have a tool available to them to help them go through the process of testing whether or not that concussion is severe enough to return that player onto the field. So it's really actually probably more important in an amateur space.
So how does the product work?
So Sidelines Doctor is an app that is designed for doctors or any other caregivers, as I mentioned, on the sidelines of a game to assess, record and communicate an athlete's injury or concussion all instantly and all in a mobile environment. So our goal is to change the way that athlete care is managed, to ultimately optimise performance and longevity, to track and measure progress, and to ultimately ensure the safety of the players on the field.
Good on you, Jen. Thank you very much. Sounds like a great idea, great product. All the details up on our Facebook page. It'll link back to what you guys are doing. But I'm glad you're doing it because we want to make sure that clearly we don't hide behind I'm all right, mate, or we also don't get involved in this thing where pat on the back if you play through injury like that. It'll cost you in the long run every time.
Absolutely. And I have to say, Paul, I love your Our Town interviews. You'll have to go to Young. That's where my family's from.
Bloody oath, I love Young. I did Australia Day there a couple of years ago. In fact, there is a tree that is planted, you know, in what I think is the main creek, but it was pretty dry there, and the Chinese restaurant there, oh, it is spectacular. I know Young very, very well.
Cherry country.
All right. Good on you, Jen. Thank you very much, mate. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.